I know you've talked in general a little bit about the process of making Born Again and kind of the creative revamp that happened a little bit through production. You and Vincent kind of feeling like it wasn't quite going right. When did you feel like um, everything was finally kind of working and the show had gotten to the point that you and Vincent and everybody else wanted it to be?
Look, it's a difficult one. I was so concerned with when we came back after the strike
Yeah.
and they told my bosses told me and Vincent about how we were going to pivot, which
Mhm.
we had expressed to them. We'd expressed, quietly expressed that we weren't convinced we were heading in the right direction.
Mhm.
And then after the strike, they came and said, we agree with you. We're going to pivot, and these are the ways in which we're going to do it. What they pitched to us, I felt was better than the direction we were going, but it
Mhm.
but it I had a lot of reservations about it. I felt like I couldn't really see how you could piece it all together without it feeling Frankenstein. Even when we were doing press, when the show was ready to come out,
Yeah.
like days from it would come out, Vincent and I had a conversation, and we're like, "What do you think?" And I said, and we both kind of said, "I think it will be okay. I think it's definitely going to be better than it was going to be."
Mhm.
So to have had the reaction that we've had
Yeah.
is like just such a blessing. I mean, and huge credit to Dario and the editors and Sana, our producer, Marvel
Yeah.
producer, and all of the folks at Marvel. Like, it really is masterful what they've managed to do in the edit, and I wasn't privy to any of that. All I did was like I had a lot of conversations with Dario and Sana and Justin and Aaron, our directors, who came in and did the episodes after the strike,
Right.
and just made sure I was really clear about where I was in the journey.
Mhm.
What's changed, what's not, what do I need to remember and consider for every scene that we do, because it was really hard to kind of stay on top of that. I'd come to work and we'd reshoot a scene from episode 3, and then we'd in my apartment, and then we'd turn around and we'd shoot a scene from episode 6.
Yeah.
Like, okay, wait, what has happened between the two? That was a kind of a mind boggle. Um,
Totally.
so I never, I couldn't believe it when I started seeing the reaction. I was like, wow, we are so fortunate.
I guess, is there any specific kind of character beat for Matt that you're kind of proudest of having pulled off this season?
Foggy art was really important to me. It
Hmm.
was really important to me that was served, that was honored.
Hmm.
You know, that character and Eldon's performance has been one of the heartbeats of this show.
Hmm.
Um, it's hard to know who Matt Murdock is without Foggy Nelson, whether it's in our show or in the comics, in the universe. That's a big moment. I understand the need. If you're coming back after 6 or 7 years hiatus, you got to shake things up a bit. You got to come back with a bang, and that was what was decided, um, at a much higher level than me. But it was really important to me that was honored. And
Hmm.
what I liked that they did was, obviously, we got to see the moment in which it happens, and
Hmm.
that reaction, and then we got to honor it 4 or 5 episodes later in a scene with Frank.
Right.
And what I really liked was the story that we tried to tell without being too like on the nose, was that the commitment he made to Foggy the night that he died was that he was going to give up Daredevil. That was how he was going to honor that man's death. And then when he breaks down at Frank's place at the mention of his friend's name, it's partly because he knows underneath, he knows he's about to renege on that promise.
Yeah.
And that's why that moment is so emotional.
And superheroes are all about saving people, and he wasn't able to save his best friend, but in this odd kind of bookending, he does end up saving Wilson Fisk from Bullseye, the same guy who killed
Yeah.
Foggy at the top of the season. What I love about that moment, not just how kind of dramatic and surprising it is, but that you get the sense that Matt doesn't even really know why he did it.
Right.
And so I want to ask you, how like why do you think Matt takes a bullet for Fisk, I guess? What was your understanding of
I think it's a really good question, but for me, it's quite clear. I think when it comes to that, there's two things going on. In general, Matt does not believe in that anyone has the right to take another human being's life.
Yeah.
So it's almost pure instinct to some degree. But if that's not enough, particularly when it comes to Wilson Fisk, I think I think Matt's concern that he may become a martyr
Right.
is unbearable.
Yeah.
It's anathema to him. It's almost the worst possible outcome.
Yeah.
What he wants, the victory that he wants, is not just that the city is rid of this man, but that the city is rid of him through the legal system. It is opposite to how he functions. Outside of the law, doing what he wants when he wants. He wants the system to win. So it's less about Matt Murdock winning and more about the city of New York winning and the system winning.
But I wanted to ask, speaking of that kind of very strange interaction that Matt and Fisk have, and you've talked before about how, you and Vincent wanted to be careful this season that the characters didn't cross paths too much because it has to be important when they do, and if they're doing it too much, then you lose the stakes of that. But I'm curious on the production side, on filming things. You and Vincent are kind of the two, protagonist, antagonist, or deuteragonist of the show. So what's it like for you to be both playing such big roles in this show, but not being on set together that much? Or
Yeah. I mean, we see, it's so funny. Like 2 days ago, we walked past each other in the corridor, and without giving too much away, he's on his way to his dressing room to get changed, and I'm on my way to set. So we're both in costume, and we're both in iconic costumes.
Yeah.
And we stopped in the hallway to chat about, a few things about the show and a couple of things. And did you read that scene in episode whatever? And the amount of people that kind of said, can we just take a photo of this really quick? So it's odd. Yeah, it's odd. I mean, it means it does mean that when we do come together in a scene, it's like, it's exciting. And it means that we can go big. If we limit the amount, we can go big. I just think that I would want to be very careful if you tell the story somehow, even inadvertently, if you tell the story that these two can tolerate each other, that I do think you really risk losing the stakes. I do think that when these two people are in the same room, they are overcome with a desire to rid the world of that human, and they both have reason enough to not do it. I always think, and I'm not going to even attempt to argue this, but I always think it's so fascinating to me why Fisk doesn't reveal to the world who he is.
Right.
And we discussed that a little bit in the show occasionally, and I buy it. I get it. I get it.
I know you guys are hard at work on season 2. I just kind of wanted to ask you, the previous Daredevil show, from 2015 to 2018, I felt like you guys always kind of wrapped up. Each season had like its own story that you would wrap up by the end, even though Matt and Fisk and people would carry on, obviously. So what's kind of exciting about, the kind of to be continued that we get at the end of season 1 of Born Again, and getting to go into season 2 really hitting the ground running with the sides kind of laid out and the action ramping up?
It's a hard one to answer because I know too much at this point. But the world that Dario has created for season 2, the intense I really think they're some of the best scripts that I've read for
Wow.
the show, and the sense of kind of like oppression and the need to monitor everything you say and do, hide in the corners everywhere, and just like take the whole, from Matt Murdock and Karen Page's point of view, just to you know live day by day.
Mm-hmm.
It it feels like we're toying with a genre, a slightly different genre for the show this year. So I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited for this stuff. I think it's gonna be really cool.
Like kind of thriller, or kind of like a underground kind of resistance movement kind of.
Yes, I would say the latter. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt protecting Fisk, not least out of just his abhorrence of killing people, of that solution. I thought it was great, that we also see that come into play with his interactions with Frank in the final couple of episodes. And when I was talking to Justin and Aaron, they were talking about, filming those action scenes, and you and John are technically fighting in the same scene, but kind of expressing totally different approaches. So I wanted to ask you, because obviously Daredevil is the action is such a key part of Daredevil and of Punisher. What's kind of fun about getting to accomplish storytelling and characterization through acting like that? Like, really, it's not just Matt and Frank, debating these points, but kind of both doing them in their own ways in these fight scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously we have a lot of action to accomplish over the course of a season. We tend to have at least a sequence in every episode.
Yeah.
And so the job, the thing that I try to always focus on and make sure that we're all departments are focused on is like a couple of things. Is like, one, be clear-minded about how emotionally relevant this scene is to Matt.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we have a scene where he's just trying to garner information, and in order to get that, he needs to go through people. And so making sure that the action is appropriate for that, so that he's not unnecessarily violent or brutal.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't require huge, physical emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's scenes where he's fighting someone for whom there's a history, with whom there's a history, or the person has been in some way involved in something that Matt feels very strongly against. And so that fight does become emotional, and it is more brutal, and it probably is more unnecessarily violent, and all of those things. So just to be clear, like, tell in the simple ways, tell those the emotional story of the action as well as possible. And then the thing that I also really care about is just always trying to remind us all that the way in which Matt experiences the world is unlike any other human on the planet. If we can, and to always look for opportunities to tell that story.
Yeah.
So I will often, I have a shorthand with Phil Silvera where I'll look at the previews with him and be like, and normally he's already done it. I don't even have to think about it, but like where are the moments where we can have what we call a no look strike? I'm punching a guy here, to be crass. You're punching a guy here, turn to punch a guy there. Can I be punching a guy here and that guy happens without even a turn of the body?
Matt wouldn't need to do that anyway.
It's a 360 degree experience of a room.
Yeah.
And always looking for kind of what I call cool comic booky ways to tell that story.
Totally.
And I remember in the first season of the show, one of my favorite moments that we came up with, and it came up with it on the day, was in a non-action scene with Rosario Dawson, where she throws me my t-shirt. She was patching me up, and then she throws me the t-shirt. And we kind of said, look, can we choreograph this so that when she throws it to me, she's behind me, so that, and I will just we'll have to time it. So someone's going to have to help me time it out so that I grab it as it comes. It's just such a fun way to remind the audience, oh, right, and these action sequences are so quick, the beats are so quick, so it's just these little
Yeah.
details, these little Easter eggs that I
Totally.
find really fun.
Totally. And I think going off that, a last question for you is I think that really comes across, say, in the fight with Bullseye that's in the first episode right after he kills Foggy.
Yeah,
You can feel that Matt's energy in that scene is so much more brutal and dangerous and kind of
yeah.
overpowering.
And the
Um,
thing that Phil Silvera did with that scene, which is so smart,
mhm.
is that we have two completely different intentions. My
Yeah.
intention is to get up close and personal.
Hmm.
That's how I neutralize him.
Right.
If he has distance, he's lethal.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make the fight close quarters.
Right.
He's trying to have as much distance between us as possible. And that
Totally.
if you that when you know that stuff and you like can see that stuff, I think it makes you enjoy the scene so much more.